She was breastfeeding her 6-month-old daughter in the hospital break room when the Vampire King walked in and froze in the doorway. His eyes, ancient and silver, locked onto the scene before him, a human nurse cradling new life against her chest, and for the first time in 3 centuries, Lucian Thorne forgot how to move. What he didn't know was that this exhausted single mother would teach him that some kinds of strength have nothing to do with immortality, and everything to do with showing up every single day, even when you're running on empty. The fluorescent lights in the break room buzzed like dying insects. Maya Santos sat in the corner chair, the one with the torn vinyl that nobody else wanted, her scrubs wrinkled from a 12-hour shift that had somehow stretched to 15. Her daughter Lily nursed quietly, tiny fists curled against Maya's chest, making those soft sounds that were part contentment, part dream. 3 a.m., the witching hour, when the hospital felt like a ship adrift in dark water, and every sound echoed too loud down empty corridors. Maya's eyes burned with exhaustion, but she kept them open, watching her daughter's face. Lily's eyelashes cast tiny shadows on her cheeks. 6 months old, and already she'd spent more nights in this break room than in their 1-bedroom apartment across town. Maya couldn't afford childcare on a nurse's salary, not real childcare anyway. Not the kind that took babies at odd hours when the hospital called her in for emergency shifts. So Lily came with her. Slept in the nursery when the nurses weren't looking. Got passed between friendly hands during Maya's rounds. Became the hospital's unofficial mascot, the tiny human who belonged to everyone and no one. The door opened without warning. Maya's hands moved instinctively, covering herself, protecting her daughter. She looked up, ready to apologize, ready to explain, ready to defend her right to feed her child, even if it meant losing her job. But the words died in her throat. The man in the doorway wasn't a doctor or an administrator. He was something else entirely. Tall enough that he had to duck slightly under the frame. Shoulders broad enough to block out the corridor light behind him. He wore all-black expensive fabric that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent, with a long coat that moved like liquid shadow. His face could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and impossible symmetry, with silver eyes that caught the fluorescent light and threw it back like mirrors. Vampire. Her mind supplied the word before she could stop it. She'd worked at Mercy General for 3 years, long enough to recognize the signs. The unnatural stillness, the way he didn't blink, the sense of compressed power, like a storm waiting to break. But this wasn't just any vampire. Maya had seen plenty of them come through the emergency room over the years. This man radiated authority the way the sun radiated heat. Everything about him screamed royalty, from the way he held himself to the silver rings on his fingers that looked like they belonged in a museum. He stared at her. Not at her face. At Lily. At the curve of Maya's arm around her daughter, at the blanket draped over them both, at the profound intimacy of the moment he'd interrupted. His expression was frozen, unreadable, but something flickered behind those silver eyes, something that looked almost like pain. Maya's heart hammered. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't think anyone would be here. I'll go." "Don't." The word came out rough, as if he hadn't spoken in hours. His eyes finally lifted to meet hers. "Don't move. Please. Please." A vampire who looked like a king, saying please to a human nurse with formula stains on her scrubs. Maya stayed frozen in her chair, every instinct screaming danger, but Lily kept nursing, oblivious to the tension crackling through the small room. Her daughter's trust kept Maya anchored. If Lily wasn't afraid, Maya wouldn't be either. The vampire took one step into the room, then stopped, as if fighting himself, his hands clenched at his sides. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said quietly. "I was looking for Dr. Chen. They told me she was on this floor." "Dr. Chen is in surgery," Maya replied automatically, her nurse training kicking in despite everything. "Emergency appendectomy. She'll be another hour at least. Can I help you with something? No. He said it too quickly. Then, softer. No. I don't think anyone can help me with this. His eyes drifted back to Lily, and Maya saw it again, that flash of something broken behind the marble exterior. How old is she? 6 months. Maya shifted slightly, adjusting the blanket. Her name is Lily. Lily, he repeated, and the way he said it made the name sound like a prayer. He moved to the far side of the room, as far from Maya as the small space allowed, and sank into one of the plastic chairs. For a moment, he just sat there, perfectly still, hands gripping the armrests like he was trying to hold the world together through sheer force of will. Maya should have left, should have gathered Lily and her bags and gotten out of this room as fast as possible. But something stopped her. Maybe it was 3 years of working in a hospital, learning to recognize pain in all its forms. Maybe it was the way his shoulders curved inward, like he was trying to protect something that was already lost. Maybe it was just exhaustion making her stupid. Are you all right? She asked. The vampire's laugh was short and bitter. That's a very human question. I'm a very human nurse. Maya finished adjusting her clothes as Lily pulled away, milk-drunk and sleepy. She lifted her daughter to her shoulder, patting her back gently. And you look like someone who's had a very long night. 347 years of long nights. He tilted his head back against the wall, closing his eyes. But tonight is somehow worse than most. Maya should have been terrified, should have taken her baby and run. But there was something in his voice that stripped away all pretense. He wasn't trying to intimidate her. He was just tired. The kind of tired that went deeper than bone. Do you want to talk about it? The question surprised her as much as it seemed to surprise him. His eyes opened, fixing on her with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. Why would you care? He asked. Not cruel, just genuinely curious. You don't know me, no, Maya agreed, rocking Lily gently as her daughter's eyes drooped. But I know what it looks like when someone is carrying something too heavy. I see it every day in this hospital. And sometimes, the strangest thing happens when people talk to someone they'll never see again. It gets a little bit lighter. The vampire studied her for a long moment. Then, incredibly, he smiled. It was small, barely there, but it transformed his face, made him look less like a marble statue and more like a person. You're either very brave or very foolish. Probably both, Maya said, and found herself smiling back. I'm a single mother working night shifts with a 6-month-old. Brave and foolish kind of come with the territory. Lucian Thorne, king of the Eastern Vampire Territories, conqueror of the Shadow Wars, had not expected to find salvation in a hospital break room at 3 a.m. He'd been searching for Dr. Chen, hoping she might have news about his youngest brother, who lay in critical condition 6 floors up. But instead, he'd found this, a woman with dark circles under her eyes and milk stains on her scrubs, holding her baby like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. And somehow, impossibly, she'd offered him kindness. My wife died in childbirth, he said, and the word surprised him. He'd never told a stranger that before, had barely told anyone who wasn't family. 200 years ago, our son survived. She didn't. He paused, watching the human woman's face. She didn't flinch, didn't offer empty platitudes. She just listened, still rocking her baby in that eternal rhythm mothers seemed to know instinctively. I raised him alone, watched him grow, taught him everything I knew. He became a good man, strong, compassionate, everything his mother would have wanted. And then, 50 years ago, he died in a war I started. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere down the corridor, a machine beeped its steady rhythm. But in this small break room, time seemed to have stopped. I'm sorry, Maya said simply. Not I'm sure he's in a better place, or at least you have your memories. Just sorry, waited with understanding. That's why you're here tonight. Your brother. Marcus is the last of my line, Lucian said. The last person who carries my blood. If he dies... He couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't voice the thing that terrified him most. That he would be truly alone. The last thorn standing in a world that had taken everyone he loved. Maya shifted Lily to her other shoulder. The baby had fallen asleep, her small body completely relaxed in that boneless way only sleeping children managed. Dr. Chen is the best surgeon in the state, she said. If anyone can save your brother, she can. You believe that? I've seen her pull off miracles. Maya stood, moving to the small sink in the corner to wet a cloth. She kept talking as she worked, one hand supporting Lily, the other managing the mundane tasks of cleaning up. Last month we had a patient come in with injuries that should have been fatal. Car accident, internal bleeding, the whole nightmare. Dr. Chen operated for 9 hours straight. Wouldn't let anyone else take over. The patient walked out of here 3 weeks later. So yes, I believe it. Your brother is in the best hands possible. Lucian watched her move around the cramped space with practiced efficiency. One-handed, while holding a sleeping infant, she managed to clean Lily's face, pack away bottles and blankets, straighten her scrubs. It was like watching a dancer, every movement purposeful and flowing into the next. How do you do this? He asked. Maya glanced at him, puzzled. Do what? This, all of it. Work these hours, care for your daughter, keep going when you're clearly exhausted. He gestured at the room, at her, at the situation. You make it look easy, but I can see it's not. I can see how tired you are. For a moment, Maya's composed expression cracked. Something raw and vulnerable showed through. I don't have a choice, she said quietly. Lily's father left before she was born. My parents died when I was 20. I have no family, no safety net. If I don't work, we don't eat. If I don't show up, I lose my job. So I do what millions of parents do every single day. I survive. I keep going. And I tell myself that someday it'll get easier. She looked down at her sleeping daughter, and her voice softened. But mostly, I do it because she needs me. And that's enough. Lucian felt something shift in his chest. This human woman, barely scraping by, exhausted to her bones, was stronger than half the warriors he'd commanded over 3 centuries. She fought a different kind of battle, one without glory or recognition, but fought it nonetheless. Day after day, night after night, showing up for someone who couldn't thank her yet, who wouldn't remember these sacrifices when she was older. When's the last time you slept? He asked. Really slept, more than a few hours at a time. Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. What's sleep? I vaguely remember that from before Lily was born. She settled back into her chair, Lily nestled against her chest. I manage, cat naps during my break. An hour here and there when Lily's down. You learn to function on fumes. That's not sustainable. The words came out sharper than Lucian intended. He forced his voice softer. I'm sorry, I have no right to judge, I watched my wife exhaust herself during her pregnancy, watched her try to do everything alone because she was too proud to ask for help, and by the time I realized how much she was carrying, it was too late. Maya's expression gentled. I'm not dying, she said. I'm just tired. There's a difference. Besides, what choice do I have? Childcare costs more than my rent. Family daycare won't take night shift babies. And the hospital's daycare has a 2-year waiting list. So, Lily comes with me, and we manage. The hospital allows this? Lucian asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Officially, no. Maya smiled wryly. Unofficially, the other nurses help me hide her when administration comes through. Pediatrics lets her sleep in an empty room during rounds. The cafeteria staff sneak me extra food. Everyone here knows my situation. They cover for me because they know I'm doing my best. Her smile faded, But if the wrong person finds out, if someone reports me, I'm done. They'll fire me for bringing my child to work, and I'll lose everything. Lucian felt something foreign stir in his chest. Anger, maybe, but not at Maya. At the system that forced mothers to choose between caring for their children and keeping their jobs. At the world that made survival a daily battle for people who were already giving everything they had. "This is wrong," he said quietly. "Yeah, well, wrong doesn't pay the bills." Maya checked her watch, and something like panic flickered across her face. "I need to get back to my floor. My break ended 10 minutes ago." She started gathering her things, moving with that same one-handed efficiency, Lily still sleeping against her shoulder. "I hope your brother pulls through. I really do." Wait. Lucian stood, and Maya froze. He moved carefully, non-threateningly, pulling out a card from his coat pocket. "If you ever need anything, help with childcare, financial assistance, a reference for a better position, call this number. My people will make sure it's handled." Maya stared at the card like it might bite her. Heavy black stock with silver lettering, a phone number, and nothing else. "I can't accept charity," she said, but her voice wavered. "It's not charity." Lucian pressed the card into her free hand. "It's acknowledgement. You showed me kindness tonight, when you didn't have to. You listened to a stranger talk about his dead family. You offered comfort when I had no right to expect it. Let me return the favor." Maya looked at the card in her hand, then at the Vampire King standing in the break room of Mercy General Hospital, and felt the world tilt slightly on its axis. This man, this immortal being, who probably had more wealth than her entire neighborhood combined, was offering her help. Real help. The kind that could change everything. Her pride wanted her to refuse. Her exhaustion wanted her to weep. Her practical side, the part that had been calculating bills and debts and impossible mathematics for 6 months straight, wanted her to take the card and never let it go. "Why?" she asked. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Lucian's silver eyes softened, "Because watching you tonight reminded me of what strength really looks like. Not immortality. Not power. Just showing up, day after day, for someone who needs you. And because I've spent 2 centuries being surrounded by people who want something from me, and you're the first person in longer than I can remember who offered something without expecting anything in return." He stepped back, giving her space. "The offer stands, whether you use it tonight, next week, or never. That number will reach me, and if you call, I will help. No strings, no debt, no obligation. Just one parent acknowledging another." Maya slipped the card into her pocket. She didn't promise to use it, didn't thank him profusely. She just nodded once, a gesture of understanding between 2 people who knew what it meant to carry weight alone. Then she left, Lily warm against her shoulder, heading back to the chaos of the ER. Lucian stood in the empty break room for a long moment after she'd gone. The vinyl chair where she'd sat still held the impression of her weight. The air still carried the faint scent of baby powder, and that indefinable sweetness that seemed to cling to all infants. He'd come here looking for news about Marcus, but he'd found something else instead. A reminder that vulnerability wasn't weakness, that asking for help wasn't failure, that maybe, possibly, he didn't have to carry everything alone. His phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Chen. Marcus was out of surgery, stable, prognosis good. Relief flooded through Lucian like a physical force, making his knees weak. His brother would live. The last of his blood, the last thread connecting him to family, had survived. He left the break room and made his way to the EQ, his mind already turning over possibilities. That woman, Maya, struggling alone with her daughter, working herself to exhaustion because the world offered her no better options. It was wrong. It was preventable. And suddenly, Lucian knew exactly what he needed to do. 3 days later, Maya received a call during her shift. An unfamiliar number, but something made her answer. Miss Santos? A professional female voice, warm but businesslike. My name is Catherine Moore. I work for the Thorne Foundation. Mr. Thorne asked me to reach out to you regarding childcare options. Maya's heart stuttered. I didn't call the number. I'm aware. Catherine's smile was audible through the phone. Mr. Thorne was concerned about your situation and asked me to conduct some research. I've found several childcare facilities that specifically cater to parents working non-traditional hours. I'd like to discuss your options, completely free of charge or obligation. Would you be available to meet tomorrow? Maya stood in the hospital corridor, phone pressed to her ear, Lily strapped to her chest in the baby carrier she wore under her scrub top. Around her, the hospital continued its endless rhythm. Doctors called orders. Machines beeped. Patients suffered and healed and suffered again. But in this moment, standing in the fluorescent-lit hallway with her daughter's heart beating against her own, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in 6 months. Hope. Yes, she said. Yes, I'd like that. The meeting changed everything. Catherine Moore arrived at Maya's apartment with folders full of options, resources Maya didn't know existed. 24-hour childcare facilities that accepted sliding-scale payments. Hospital programs for employee assistance. Grants and subsidies specifically designed for single parents in medical professions. Why didn't anyone tell me about these before? Maya asked, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information spread across her tiny kitchen table. Because navigating the system requires time and knowledge most people don't have, Catherine replied. Especially when you're working double shifts and caring for an infant. That's where we come in. The Thorne Foundation specializes in connecting people with resources they didn't know they could access. She pulled out another folder. But Mr. Thorne also wanted me to present you with something else. A proposal. Maya's stomach clenched. Here it was. The catch. The strings attached. What kind of proposal? The Thorne Foundation is launching a new initiative, on-site childcare facilities at major hospitals throughout the city. 24-hour care, subsidized fees, priority access for hospital staff. Catherine slid a photograph across the table. A beautiful facility, bright and clean, with toys and cribs and smiling caregivers. Mercy General will be our pilot program. We're hiring staff, designing curriculum, setting up the physical space. We break ground next month. Maya stared at the photo. This is real? This isn't some kind of joke? It's very real. Mr. Thorne is funding the entire project personally. But here's where you come in. Catherine leaned forward. We need someone who understands both sides of this equation. Someone who works in the hospital and knows the challenges staff face. Someone who's lived the reality of being a parent with no support system. We'd like to hire you as our community liaison. You'd help design the program, advocate for parents' needs, ensure we're actually solving real problems instead of just throwing money at theoretical ones. I'm a nurse, Maya said faintly. I don't have experience with program development or administration or any of this. You have something better. You have lived experience. You know what it's like to feed your baby in a break room at 3 a.m., terrified you'll get fired if anyone reports you. You know what struggling parents need, because you are one. Catherine's expression was kind, but firm. The position comes with a significant raise, full benefits, and of course, priority access to the childcare facility for Lily. You'd still work some nursing shifts to maintain your connection to floor staff, but the majority of your time would be spent on this project. Maya's hands trembled. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. What does he want in return? She asked quietly. Mr. Thorne, what does he expect from me? Nothing. Catherine's answer was immediate. He expects nothing. No personal relationship, no debt, no favors. He saw someone struggling and decided to do something about it. That's what the Thorn Foundation does. We identify systemic problems and create sustainable solutions. Maya took the job. Not because she trusted Lucian Thorn, not because she believed in fairy tale endings, but because she was drowning and someone had thrown her a life raft. She'd be stupid not to grab it. The first month was overwhelming. Meetings with architects and designers, interviews with childcare professionals, focus groups with hospital staff. Maya discovered she had opinions about everything: room layouts, staff-to-child ratios, feeding schedules, emergency protocols. Years of struggling had given her strong ideas about what worked and what didn't, and suddenly people were listening to her. The construction crew broke ground on the facility in October. By November, the walls were up. By December, they were hiring staff. Maya interviewed every candidate personally, watching how they interacted with children, asking questions about their childcare philosophy, their experience with non-traditional schedules, their ability to handle stressed parents dropping off exhausted children at 2 a.m. Lily thrived. With consistent care and proper sleep, she transformed from a fussy, overtired infant into a happy, curious baby who smiled at everyone. Maya thrived, too. For the first time since Lily's birth, she slept more than 4 hours at a stretch. She ate regular meals. She could think about something other than just survival. But she didn't see Lucian Thorn again. Not during those first few months. Catherine handled all the Foundation business, and Maya assumed the Vampire King had moved on to other projects, other problems. She tried not to feel disappointed, tried not to wonder why he'd done all this for a stranger he'd met once in a hospital break room. Tried not to replay that conversation over and over, searching for meaning in his words. Then, on a cold January evening, she saw him in the hospital cafeteria. He sat alone at a corner table, staring at a cup of coffee that had probably gone cold hours ago. He looked tired, which seemed impossible for a vampire. But there were shadows under his eyes, and his shoulders curved inward the same way they had that night in the break room. Maya hesitated. She should leave him alone, give him privacy, not intrude on whatever private grief he was carrying. But her feet moved before her brain caught up, carrying her across the cafeteria until she stood beside his table. "Is your brother okay?" she asked. Lucian looked up, and recognition flickered across his face. Miss Santos. Maya. He stood, the gesture automatic and courteous. Marcus recovered fully. He's home now, terrorizing the staff and generally being impossible. Something that might have been a smile ghosted across his lips. "Thank you for asking. Good. That's good." Maya shifted her weight, suddenly uncertain. "I wanted to thank you. For everything. The job, the childcare facility, all of it. You changed my life. You changed mine first." Lucian gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Would you sit? Unless you're busy. I don't want to keep you." Maya sat. Up close, she could see new lines around his eyes, a tightness to his jaw that hadn't been there before. "You look exhausted," she said, her nurse's instincts kicking in. "When's the last time you fed?" The question came out before she could stop it. Too familiar. Too personal. "I'm sorry. That's none of my business. It's been a while," Lucian admitted. "Longer than it should be. I've been traveling. Meetings with other territorial leaders, negotiations, the endless political dance that comes with running a kingdom." He rubbed his eyes. "I should feed tonight. Add it to the list of things I'm avoiding." "Why are you avoiding it?" Maya asked, genuinely curious. She knew vampires needed blood to survive, the way humans needed food. Knew that most vampires had willing donors, people who provided blood in exchange for money or protection, or sometimes just the experience. But Lucian looked at the concept like it was a chore, something unpleasant to be endured. "Because feeding requires intimacy," Lucian said quietly. "Not sexual, necessarily, but intimate nonetheless. It requires trust, vulnerability, allowing someone close enough to touch your throat, your wrist, the places where you're most fragile." He stared at his cold coffee. I've been a king for 300 years. Intimacy is dangerous when everyone wants something from you. So I put it off until I can't anymore, until I'm so weak I have no choice, and then I treat it like a transaction. Efficient. Clinical. Empty. Maya understood that loneliness. She'd felt it herself, before Lily. The isolation of being alone in a crowd, of going through motions without connection. That sounds exhausting, she said softly. It is, Lucian agreed. But it's safe. And safety, I've learned, is more important than happiness. He changed the subject, clearly uncomfortable with the direction the conversation had taken. How is Lily? How is the new childcare program working out? She's wonderful. The program is wonderful. All of it is wonderful, and it's because of you. Maya pulled out her phone, showing him recent photos. Lily at 6 months, then 7, then 8, growing and changing, her personality emerging like sunrise. She's crawling now, getting into everything. The childcare staff say she's the most curious baby they've ever seen. She scrolled to another photo, this one of Lily at the new facility, surrounded by toys, grinning at the camera with her 2 new teeth on full display. You gave us this stability, this peace, this chance to be more than just survival mode. I don't know how to thank you for that. Lucian studied the photos with an intensity that made Maya's breath catch. His expression softened, transformed, became almost human. She has your smile, he said, that same light in her eyes, like she knows a secret the rest of the world hasn't figured out yet. He handed the phone back carefully. You don't need to thank me. Seeing you both thriving is thanks enough. Can I ask you something? Maya said. And you can tell me it's none of my business, and I'll drop it. But that night we met, you said your son died 50 years ago, in a war you started. She hesitated, then pushed forward. Do you blame yourself? Lucian was quiet for so long Maya thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, every single day. I started that war over territory, over resources, over pride, all the usual justifications kings use when they want to expand their power. And my son, my brave, foolish, loyal son, insisted on leading the charge. He died protecting a supply line that, in hindsight, meant nothing. And I've spent the last 50 years wondering if power is worth the cost of everyone you love. Is that why you're doing this? Maya asked gently. The foundation, the child care facilities, helping people like me? Are you trying to balance some cosmic scale? Maybe. Lucian smiled, but it was sad. Or maybe I'm just trying to do something that matters. Something that lasts beyond territory and war, and all the empty victories that fill history books. Your daughter will grow up with care and support because of what we're building. Other parents won't have to choose between their children and their careers. That's worth more than any kingdom I've conquered. The childcare facility opened in February with a ribbon-cutting ceremony that made the local news. Hospital administrators gave speeches about innovation and family support. The mayor showed up for photo opportunities. Catherine coordinated everything with smooth efficiency, making sure every detail was perfect. But it was Maya who truly mattered that day. She stood at the entrance, Lily on her hip, welcoming exhausted parents and their children, showing them around, explaining the schedules and protocols with the authority of someone who'd lived their struggles. She was radiant, confident, transformed from the exhausted nurse he'd met in the break room 3 months ago. Lucian watched from the back of the crowd, deliberately staying out of the spotlight. This wasn't about him. This was about the parents who would finally have support, the children who would receive quality care, the hospital staff who could work without carrying guilt over their childcare choices. He'd funded it, yes, but Maya had shaped it. Her fingerprints were everywhere, in the cozy reading corner, because she remembered the importance of bedtime stories. In the windows positioned low enough for crawling babies to see out, because Lily loved watching the world. In the quiet room for nursing mothers, private and comfortable, because she'd spent too many nights feeding her daughter in a cold break room under fluorescent lights. As the ceremony wound down and people began touring the facility, Maya caught his eye across the room. She excused herself from the administrator she'd been talking to and made her way over, Lily babbling happily against her shoulder. "You're hiding," she said, a smile playing at her lips. "This is your project. You should be up there cutting ribbons and giving speeches." "I hate speeches," Lucian replied. "And this isn't my project. It's yours. I just provided the money. You provided the heart." He reached out carefully, letting Lily grab his finger. The baby held on with surprising strength, studying his face with intense concentration. "She's grown. She's 9 months now, getting so big." Maya adjusted Lily on her hip. "She'll be walking soon. Her pediatrician says she's ahead of all her developmental milestones." "Thriving." She paused, then added quietly, "Because of you. Because I'm not exhausted anymore. Because I can actually parent instead of just survive." "Because you're an excellent mother," Lucian corrected. "You were doing everything right even when circumstances were impossible. I just made the circumstances less impossible." Lily tugged on his finger, trying to pull his hand to her mouth. He let her, amused when she gummed his knuckle with her 2 teeth. "She's teething." "Oh God, yes. She's chewing everything. My fingers, my phone, the furniture." Maya laughed. "Sorry, she's in that phase where everything goes in her mouth." She tried to pull Lily back, but the baby held on stubbornly to Lucian's hand, making cranky sounds of protest. "Lily, let go. Don't bite the nice vampire king. She's fine," Lucian said, surprised by how much he meant it. He'd avoided babies for 50 years. Couldn't bear to be around them after his son died. They reminded him too much of what he'd lost, what he'd never have again. But this little girl, with her mother's eyes and her fierce determination, didn't trigger the usual grief. She just made him smile. "I don't mind." Maya studied him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You're good with her. Natural, like you've done this before." "I raised my son mostly alone," Lucian admitted. "My wife died when he was hours old. I was terrified I'd break him. He was so small, so fragile. But you figure it out." The first time he smiled at me, I knew I'd do anything to protect that happiness. His voice caught. I failed at that part. "No parent can protect their children from everything," Maya said softly. "You loved him. You showed up for him. You did your best. That's all any of us can do." She hesitated, then asked, "Would you like to hold her?" "Lily, I mean. She clearly likes you." Lucian's throat tightened. "I don't think, please," Maya interrupted. "You've given me so much. Let me give you this. Just for a moment." Before he could protest further, Maya transferred Lily into his arms. The baby settled against his chest without hesitation, her small body warm and solid and real. She looked up at him with curious dark eyes, one hand patting his collar, the other still trying to gnaw on his finger. Lucian's arms remembered the weight, remembered cradling his son like this, walking the palace halls at night, singing soft songs in a language older than kingdoms. "Hello, little one," he murmured. Lily grinned at him, drool running down her chin, utterly delighted with herself. And something in Lucian's chest, something that had been frozen for 50 years, cracked open just slightly. Maya watched them, her expression soft. "See? Natural." She touched Lily's back gently, a mother's instinctive gesture. "Thank you for this. For all of this. I know I keep saying it, but I don't think you understand what you've done. You didn't just give me a job or childcare. You gave me hope. You reminded me that the world isn't just struggle and exhaustion, that sometimes people help just because they can. You did the same for me," Lucian said, still looking at Lily. "That night in the break room, I'd convinced myself that I was alone, that everyone I loved was gone, and nothing I did mattered. But you showed me that mattering isn't about grand gestures or conquering kingdoms. It's about showing up, making space for people to be tired and scared, and still choosing to be kind anyway." He finally met Maya's eyes, You saved me that night. Let me return the favor." A hospital administrator approached, interrupting the moment. "Miss Santos, we're about to start the staff orientation. We need you to go over the enrollment procedures." Maya nodded. Then, gently reclaimed Lily from Lucian's arms. The baby protested with a whimper, reaching back toward him. "I know, sweetheart," Maya cooed. "We'll see him again." She looked at Lucian. "We will, right? See you again?" "I'd like that," Lucian said, and realized he meant it. For the first time in decades, he wanted to see someone again, not because they were useful or necessary, or part of some political calculation, just because their presence made the world feel less empty. "I'll be at the foundation office most days. You have my number. Use it. For anything, not just work." Maya did use the number, though she agonized over it for a week first. She wasn't looking for anything, she told herself. She just wanted to update him on the facility's progress, to show him that his investment was paying off, to let him know how many parents had enrolled their children already. It had nothing to do with the way her heart had stuttered when he held Lily, or the way his face had transformed from marble into something achingly human. They met for coffee. A neutral space, a public cafe far from the hospital and the foundation office. Lucian arrived early, dressed more casually than she'd ever seen him. Dark jeans, a simple sweater, no coat or formal attire. He looked younger like this, less like an ancient king and more like a man who might order coffee and read the newspaper. Maya brought Lily because finding a sitter felt too much like a date, and this wasn't a date. This was a business meeting, a friendly update between colleagues. Nothing more. "She's pulling up now," Maya said, showing him a video on her phone. Lily, at 10 months old, hauling herself up on the couch, wobbling triumphantly. Won't be long before she's walking. Lucian watched the video with rapt attention. She's strong, determined, like her mother. He handed the phone back. "The facility reports are excellent, by the way. We're at 90% capacity already. Catherine says 3 other hospitals have inquired about implementing similar programs." "That's amazing." Maya sipped her coffee, Lily contentedly chewing on a teething toy in her lap. "You're going to change the childcare landscape. Make it actually possible for working parents to, work and parent at the same time." "We're going to change it," Lucian corrected. "This doesn't work without your insight, your advocacy, your lived experience. I can throw money at problems all day, but you understand what the solutions actually need to look like." He paused, seeming to gather courage. "I wanted to ask you something, and you can absolutely say no. No pressure, no obligation." Maya's heart did something complicated in her chest. "Okay. The foundation is hosting a gala next month. Fundraiser for expanding the childcare program to more hospitals. It's formal, tedious, full of wealthy people making small talk." He smiled slightly. "I hate these things. But Catherine insists I have to attend, that the donors expect to see me there. I was wondering if you'd come with me. As my guest, you could talk about the program firsthand, share your story, help convince these people that their money would go toward something real." "You want me to speak at a gala?" Maya asked faintly. "In front of rich people? I'm a nurse. I don't own a gown. I don't know how to talk to donors." "You talk to people every day. Scared patients, grieving families, overwhelmed colleagues. Donors are just people with money. You tell them what you told me, that first night. About being a single mother trying to feed your baby in a break room, terrified you'd lose your job, about the impossible choices, and the exhaustion, and the way society makes parenting a luxury instead of a right." Lucian's expression was earnest. "You're more articulate than any paid speaker we could hire. You're the real thing. That matters." Maya looked down at Lily, who had dropped her toy and was now trying to grab Maya's coffee cup. She thought about standing in front of a ballroom full of wealthy strangers, telling them her story. The idea terrified her. But maybe that was the point. Maybe vulnerability was how you changed things. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll do it, but you have to help me find a dress, and practice my speech, and promise you'll rescue me if I freeze up there. Deal, Lucian said immediately. Relief and something else, something warmer, crossed his face. Thank you. This means more than you know. The gala was 6 weeks away. In that time, Maya and Lucian fell into a routine. Coffee once a week, sometimes twice. Always with Lily, because Maya still wasn't ready to call it what it was becoming. They talked about everything. His centuries of life, her difficult childhood, his regrets about his son, her fears about single parenthood, the books they loved, the foods they missed, the small mundane details that make up a life. He never pushed, never suggested anything more than friendship. But the way he looked at her, the way he listened like her words were precious, the way he interacted with Lily with such gentleness, it all added up to something Maya was afraid to name. 3 weeks before the gala, Lucian asked if he could take Maya dress shopping. I know someone, he said. A designer. She owes me a favor. She'll make you something perfect. Maya wanted to refuse, wanted to maintain boundaries, but she owned exactly one formal dress from college, and it didn't fit anymore post-pregnancy, and she was tired of pretending she didn't want this. Didn't want to feel beautiful for one night. Didn't want to see how Lucian looked at her when she wore something other than scrubs. The designer's studio was in a converted warehouse downtown. Elegant, minimalist, clearly expensive. The designer herself, Elena, was a vampire with kind eyes and skilled hands who took one look at Maya and said, I know exactly what you need. The dress she created was midnight blue, the color of the sky just after sunset. It fit Maya perfectly, hugging her curves, making her feel elegant instead of self-conscious. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She started, then couldn't find the words. Beautiful, Lucian said from behind her. His voice was rough, reverent. You look beautiful. Maya turned to face him, suddenly breathless. He was staring at her like she'd hung the stars, like she was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. The air between them felt electric, charged with everything they weren't saying. Lucian, she whispered. I know, he said. I know we said just friends. I know the timing is complicated, and you have Lily to think about, and I'm a vampire king with more baggage than anyone should have to carry. He took a step closer. But I have to tell you, you're the first person in 50 years who's made me want to be more than just functional. Who's made me remember what it feels like to look forward to tomorrow. And if you don't feel the same way, I'll respect that. We can go back to just coffee and foundation meetings, and I will never mention this again. But I needed you to know. Maya's heart hammered. 100 reasons to say no crowded her mind. He was immortal. She was human. He was wealthy. She was still paying off student loans. He was a king. She was a nurse. They came from different worlds, had different lives, faced different futures. But when she looked at him, all those reasons felt distant and unimportant. What mattered was the way he'd helped her without expecting anything in return. The way he held Lily like she was precious. The way he listened, really listened, when Maya talked. The way he made her feel seen. I feel the same way, she said quietly. I've been feeling it for weeks, maybe since that first night. But I'm scared, Lucian. I'm scared of what happens when the fairy tale ends, when you remember that you're a king and I'm just a struggling single mother. When the novelty wears off and you realize I'm not special, you're the most special person I've ever met, Lucian said fiercely. And this isn't a fairy tale. It's real. Messy and complicated, and real. He reached for her hand, holding it gently. I'm not promising forever. I'm not promising easy. I'm just promising that I'll show up. Every day. For you and for Lily. For however long you'll let me. The gala was held at the city's oldest hotel, a historic building with soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers that threw rainbow light across marble floors. Maya felt like she was walking through a dream. The dress Elena had made moved like water, and Lucian beside her in his formal black suit looked every inch the king he was. People turned to watch them pass. Whispers followed in their wake. The vampire king with a human woman, a single mother, someone outside their carefully controlled social circles. Catherine found them immediately. "You look stunning," she said warmly to Maya, "and the speech cards I prepared are in your clutch. But honestly, just speak from your heart. That's what people need to hear." She squeezed Maya's hand. "You're going to be amazing." The dinner portion felt endless. 7 courses of food Maya was too nervous to eat properly. Conversation that sparkled around her. Donors and socialites and vampires discussing politics and art and business. Lucian stayed close, his hand occasionally touching the small of her back, a silent reassurance. He introduced her to everyone with quiet pride. "This is Maya Santos. She's the heart of our childcare program. Everything we've accomplished is because of her vision." Finally, after dessert, Catherine took the stage. She gave a polished presentation about the Foundation's work, showing photos of the childcare facility, statistics about enrollment and satisfaction. Then she said, "But numbers don't tell the whole story. I'd like to invite Miss Maya Santos to share her experience, to tell you why this work matters." Maya stood on, shaking legs. Lucian caught her hand under the table, squeezing once. "You've got this," he murmured. "Just tell them what you told me." The walk to the podium felt like miles. Hundreds of faces turned toward her, expectant and curious. Rich people in expensive clothes, sipping wine that probably cost more than her monthly salary. For a moment, panic threatened to overwhelm her. She didn't belong here. She was a fraud. Someone would realize, would call her out, would expose her as just a struggling single mother pretending to be someone important. Then, she saw Lucian. He sat at their table, watching her with complete faith. And she remembered why she was doing this. Not for herself. For all the other parents out there, working impossible shifts, making impossible choices. Struggling alone. 3 months ago, Maya began, her voice stronger than she expected. "I was feeding my 6-month-old daughter in a hospital break room at 3 in the morning. I was terrified. Terrified I'd get caught bringing my baby to work. Terrified I'd lose my job. Terrified that I was failing as a mother because I couldn't afford childcare on a nurse's salary." She paused, letting the words sink in. That night, Mr. Thorne walked in, and instead of reporting me, instead of looking down on me for my situation, he listened. He saw me. And then, he decided to do something about it. She told them everything. The exhaustion, the impossible mathematics of survival, the guilt that came with every choice. She told them about other nurses she worked with, other single parents, all struggling with the same impossible situation. She told them about the childcare facility, about watching parents drop off their children with relief and tears, about coming to work without that constant background terror, about being able to parent instead of just survive. "This program didn't just change my life," Maya concluded. "It changed my daughter's life. It changed every parent who can now work without sacrificing their children's well-being, and it can change lives across this city, across this country, if we choose to make it a priority. If we decide that supporting families isn't a luxury, but a necessity." She looked directly at the audience. "Your donations tonight will build more facilities, will support more parents, will give more children the stable, loving care they deserve. Thank you for considering that investment." The applause started slowly, then built to something thunderous. People stood. Someone at the back shouted, "Here, here." Maya's legs felt weak as she made her way back to her seat. Lucian rose to meet her, and in front of everyone, pulled her into a hug. "Perfect," he murmured against her hair. That was perfect. After that, the donations poured in. People approached Maya all night, sharing their own stories, writing checks, asking how they could help. Catherine worked the room like a maestro, directing conversations, making connections, securing commitments. By the end of the night, they'd raised enough money to expand the program to 5 more hospitals. "You did it," Lucien said as they stood on the hotel terrace afterward, the city lights spread below them like fallen stars. "You changed hearts and minds tonight. Made them see what I saw that first night. That real change starts with seeing people's struggles and choosing to help." "We did it," Maya corrected. "None of this happens without you. Your money, your influence, your willingness to actually listen to what people need instead of assuming you know better." She leaned against the railing, suddenly exhausted. "I can't believe that was real, that I just spoke in front of all those people. You were magnificent." Lucien moved to stand beside her, close enough that his arm brushed hers. "Brave and articulate, and completely yourself. You didn't try to be someone you're not. That's what made it powerful." Maya turned to face him. "Can I ask you something? And I want the truth, not the polite answer." She took a breath. "Why me? Really, there are thousands of struggling parents in this city. Thousands of people you could have helped. Why did you walk into that break room and decide I was worth changing your entire foundation's focus?" Lucien was quiet for a long moment. The city hummed below them, alive and restless. "Finally," he said, "because you reminded me of my wife. Not in how you look or talk, but in how you love. She had that same fierce protectiveness, that same determination to keep going no matter how hard it got. When she was pregnant with our son, carrying a vampire child as a human, it was killing her. Every healer told her to terminate the pregnancy, that she wouldn't survive. But she refused. She said she'd rather die giving life than live knowing she chose fear over love." His voice cracked slightly. "She made that choice, and it destroyed me. I spent 200 years angry at her for leaving, for choosing death, for loving our son more than she loved me. But that night," he continued, "watching you feed Lily, exhausted and scared but so gentle, so present, I finally understood. She wasn't choosing death. She was choosing life for our son, even if it meant she couldn't be there to watch him grow. That's the kind of love you show every day. The kind that shows up even when you're running on empty. The kind that keeps going because someone else needs you more than you need rest." He met Maya's eyes. "That night you helped me forgive her, helped me understand, and I wanted to give you what I couldn't give her. Support. Help. A chance to love your daughter without having to choose between that love and your own survival." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Lucien." She didn't have words big enough for what she felt, so instead of speaking, she reached up and pulled him down into a kiss. He froze for half a second, surprised, then kissed her back with a gentleness that made her knees weak. His hands came up to frame her face, treating her like something precious, and for the first time in forever, Maya let herself believe she might be. When they finally broke apart, Lucien pressed his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that for weeks," he admitted, "but I didn't want to push, didn't want to take advantage of the situation." "You're not taking advantage," Maya assured him. "I want this, want you. I'm just scared of what it means. You're immortal, Lucien. I'll grow old. Lily will grow old. You'll stay like this forever. How does that work?" "I don't know," Lucien said honestly. "I don't have answers. I just know that I want to be part of your lives for however long you'll have me. Whether that's a year or decades. Whether it ends with you aging and me staying young, or some other complication we can't predict." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've lived 300 years, Maya. I've learned that certainty is an illusion. All we have is right now. This moment. This choice. And I choose you. Both of you." They left the gala together, Lucian's car taking them back to Maya's apartment. The babysitter, a college student from the hospital's childcare program, reported that Lily had been an angel. Maya paid her, then stood in the living room of her tiny apartment, suddenly unsure. Lucian filled the space, made everything feel smaller and more intimate. "Would you like to stay for coffee?" she asked. "I know it's late, but—" "I'd love to," Lucian said. "But first, can I see her?" "Lily, I know she's sleeping, but I'd just like to check on her." Maya's heart melted. She led him to Lily's room, a converted alcove barely big enough for a crib and changing table. Her daughter slept on her back, arms thrown up beside her head, face peaceful. 10 months old, growing so fast Maya could barely keep up. Lucian stood at the crib's edge, watching Lily sleep with an expression of such tender longing, it made Maya's chest ache. "She's perfect," he whispered. "Absolutely perfect. She's the best thing I ever did," Maya replied. "The hardest thing, too. But the best." They retreated to the living room, leaving Lily's door cracked so they'd hear if she woke. Maya made coffee, and they sat on her second-hand couch, close but not quite touching. The gown Elena had made felt too formal now, too much for this small space. But Lucian looked at her like she was wearing a ball gown made of starlight. "Tell me about your wife," Maya said softly. "What was her name? What was she like?" "Serafina." Lucian's smile was sad but genuine. "She was human, like you, a healer in a small village on the border of my territory. I was injured in a skirmish, nothing serious, but I needed somewhere to recover away from court politics. She took me in, nursed me back to health, and I fell in love with the way she talked to flowers while she worked. Said they grew better with encouragement." He laughed quietly. "She was gentle but stubborn, kind but fierce when it mattered. She saw past what I was, king, vampire, immortal, and loved the person underneath." "How long were you together?" Maya asked. 5 years. We married against everyone's advice. Human-vampire unions were rare even then, and ones involving royalty were unheard of. But Serafina didn't care about politics or propriety. She loved me, I loved her, and that was enough." His expression darkened. "Until it wasn't. Until loving each other meant she died bringing our son into the world." I've replayed that day for 2 centuries, wondering if I could have changed it. If I'd insisted on terminating the pregnancy, if I'd found better healers, if I'd loved her less and protected her more. "She made her choice," Maya said gently. "The same way I would make that choice, the same way any mother makes that choice when they decide love is worth the risk." She took his hand. "You honored her by raising your son, by loving him the way she would have wanted. That's not failing. That's succeeding at the hardest thing in the world." "He was so much like her," Lucian said, his voice thick. "Alexander. Sarah's kindness, Sarah's stubbornness, Sarah's way of seeing the best in people. For 150 years I got to watch him grow, watch him become someone amazing. And then I let my pride start a war, and he died defending territory that didn't matter. I've carried that guilt every day since." Maya moved closer, wrapping her arms around him. Lucian held onto her like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. They stayed like that for a long time, 2 people who'd both lost too much, finding comfort in shared grief. Eventually, Lucian pulled back enough to look at her. "I'm broken, Maya," he said. "I don't know if I'll ever not be broken. If that's not something you want to deal with, I'm broken too," Maya interrupted. "We're all broken. That's what being human means. Or vampire, I guess. Being alive means carrying scars." She cupped his face in her hands. "But maybe we can be broken together. Maybe that's enough." Lucian kissed her again, deeper this time, and Maya let herself fall into it. Let herself believe that maybe, possibly, she deserved this. Deserved gentleness and passion, and someone who looked at her like she was precious. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucian rested his forehead against hers. "I should go," he said reluctantly. before I forget all my good intentions about taking things slow. Or you could stay, Maya heard herself say. I just mean, stay. On the couch. So you're here when Lily wakes up. She usually gets up around 6, wants her morning bottle. You could feed her, if you want. See what mornings are like. Lucian looked at her like she'd offered him the world. I'd like that, he said. I'd like that very much. Morning came too early, announced by Lily's demanding cries from her crib. Maya groaned, automatically starting to get up, but Lucian was already moving. I'll get her, he said, and disappeared into the alcove before Maya could protest. She listened to him talking softly to Lily, his voice low and soothing, and felt something warm spread through her chest. This vampire king, this ancient immortal being, was comforting her fussy baby at 6 in the morning like it was the most natural thing in the world. She found them in the tiny kitchen. Lucian held Lily against his shoulder while he tested the temperature of formula with his wrist, exactly like Maya had shown him weeks ago. Lily was still crying, but softer now, more cranky than truly upset. Almost ready, little one, Lucian murmured. I know you're hungry. Just another moment. Maya leaned against the doorway, watching them. Lucian had taken off his formal jacket, rolled up his sleeves. His hair was mussed from sleeping on her couch. He looked domestic and real, and nothing like a king. He looked like a father. The bottle was ready. Lucian settled into the rocking chair Maya kept in the corner, adjusting Lily in his arms with practiced ease. The baby latched onto the bottle immediately, her cries cutting off as she began to eat. Lucian relaxed, rocking gently, watching Lily with complete focus. You're good at this, Maya said softly. Muscle memory, Lucian replied. Some things you never forget no matter how much time passes. He glanced up at her. Did I wake you? I tried to be quiet. Lily woke me, but in a good way. Seeing you with her. Maya moved into the kitchen, starting the coffee maker. It's nice, really nice. They fell into an easy rhythm. Maya made breakfast while Lucian fed Lily. Then they switched, Lucian cooking eggs while Maya changed and dressed her daughter. It felt natural, comfortable, like they'd been doing this for years instead of hours. Lily seemed delighted with the arrangement, babbling at Lucian whenever he came into view, reaching for him with grabby hands. I think she's adopted you, Maya said, laughing as Lily refused to let go of Lucian's finger. You're officially part of her very small circle of favorite people. I'm honored, Lucian said, and meant it. He looked at Maya over Lily's head. I could get used to this. Mornings like this. The three of us. Me too, Maya admitted. But we need to talk about logistics, about what this actually looks like. She settled Lily in her high chair with some soft finger foods to gum. You're a vampire king. You have responsibilities, territories, political obligations. I'm a human with a baby and a job. How do we make this work? Carefully, Lucian said. And honestly, I won't lie to you about my life, Maya. Being with me means dealing with vampire politics, with people who will judge our relationship, with the reality that I'm not entirely safe. There are enemies, rival territories, vampires who would love to find a weakness they could exploit. He reached across the table, taking her hand. But I will protect you. Both of you. With everything I have. No one will touch you. Or Lily. That's a promise. I'm not worried about physical safety, Maya said. You've made that clear. I'm worried about... She struggled to find the words. I'm worried about Lily. About her growing up in this world. About what it means to have a vampire in her life. Will she be safe? Will she be accepted? Will she understand why you don't age while we do? Those are fair concerns, Lucian acknowledged, and I don't have perfect answers. But I can tell you this. I will love her like she's mine. I will show up for her, protect her, support her, be there for every milestone and every struggle. And when she's old enough to ask why I don't age, we'll tell her the truth. We'll help her understand. We'll make sure she knows that different doesn't mean less, that love comes in many forms, that family is who shows up, not just who shares blood." Maya blinked back tears. "You've thought about this. I've thought about nothing else for weeks," Lucian admitted. "From the moment you asked me to stay last night, I've been playing out scenarios, trying to figure out how to be what you both need. And here's what I've realized. I can't promise perfection. I can't promise it will always be easy. But I can promise to try. Every single day. To be present, to be honest, to love you both with everything I have. That's all I need to hear," Maya said. She stood, moving around the table to kiss him, slow and sweet. Lily banged her hand on the high chair tray, demanding attention, and they broke apart laughing. Okay, we see you, demanding baby." The next few months were an adjustment. Lucian moved some of his work to the city so he could be closer. He didn't move in, too fast, they agreed. Too much pressure. But he was there most days. He learned Lily's routines, her likes and dislikes, the specific cry that meant hungry versus tired versus just wanting attention. He attended her pediatrician appointments, helped with teething nights, celebrated when she finally took her first wobbly steps at 11 months. The vampire court was scandalized. A human woman with a child? Unheard of. Inappropriate, but Lucian made it clear that anyone who had a problem with his choices could take it up with him directly. And suddenly, the complaints stopped. Maya's co-workers were surprised, but supportive. Some of the nurses teased her about dating a vampire king, but mostly they were just happy to see her happy. The childcare facility thrived, expanding to a second location, then a third. Maya found herself doing more advocacy work, speaking at conferences, consulting with other hospitals. Catherine joked that Maya was becoming the face of the foundation, more recognizable than Lucian himself. But the best moments were the quiet ones. Saturday mornings with Lily between them in bed, tiny feet kicking them both awake. Afternoon walks in the park, Lily in her stroller, pointing at birds and dogs with equal enthusiasm. Bedtime routines where Lucian read stories in 3 different languages, and Lily fell asleep to the sound of his voice. Maya had never imagined this life, had never let herself dream that love could look like this, steady and real and filled with someone else's laundry, and shared grocery shopping, and 1,000 small domestic moments that added up to home. Lily's first birthday arrived with all the chaos and joy that first birthdays entailed. Maya insisted on keeping it small, just close friends from the hospital, Catherine from the foundation, and Lucian's brother Marcus, who'd recovered fully and had become unexpectedly wonderful with Lily. They held the party at Maya's apartment, decorating with balloons and streamers, serving cake that Lily would definitely smash everywhere. Marcus showed up early to help set up, bringing gifts that were completely age-inappropriate, but thoughtful. A unicorn? Maya laughed, holding up an enormous stuffed animal that was bigger than Lily. She's 1. She can't even walk properly yet. She'll grow into it, Marcus said cheerfully. He was younger than Lucian by several centuries, with dark hair and an easy smile that made him popular at court. Besides, every kid needs an impractical gift from their uncle. Uncle? Maya repeated, surprised. Marcus shrugged. What else would I be? My brother loves you. He loves Lily. That makes you family in my book. Unless that's weird, I can call myself something else. No, Maya said, voice thick with emotion. Uncle is perfect. She hugged him impulsively, and Marcus hugged back, careful of his strength. Family. She'd been alone for so long, had gotten used to it being just her and Lily against the world. But now there was Lucian, and Marcus, and Catherine, and all the nurses from work, and suddenly they had people. Had a community. Had support. The party was lovely. Lily wore a tiny crown and spent most of the time trying to eat wrapping paper instead of her cake. Lucian hovered nearby, camera ready, capturing every moment. He'd been nervous about the party, worried about being around so many humans, about making Maya's friends uncomfortable. But everyone loved him, especially when they saw how he was with Lily, patient and gentle and completely smitten. Speech. Someone called as they lit the birthday candle. The parents should make a speech. Maya looked at Lucian, raising an eyebrow. Parents? If you'll have me, Lucian said quietly. Then, louder, all right, a speech. Though fair warning, I'm 300 years old, and I've given approximately 0 birthday speeches, so this might be terrible. He lifted Lily from her high chair, holding her while she grabbed at his collar. A year ago, I didn't know either of you. I was going through motions, existing but not really living. And then, I walked into a hospital break room and saw Maya feeding this tiny baby, and everything changed. He looked at Maya. You taught me that strength isn't about power or immortality. It's about showing up every day, even when you're exhausted. It's about loving someone so much that their needs become more important than your own. It's about building a life one small moment at a time. He turned to Lily, who was now trying to grab his nose. And you, little one, you reminded me why any of it matters, why we fight to make the world better. You're 1 year old and you've already changed everything, made your mother's life easier through the foundation, made me remember what it feels like to be needed, made everyone in this room smile just by existing. He kissed the top of her head. Happy birthday, Lily. May you always be this fierce, this curious, this absolutely certain that the world exists to entertain you. Everyone laughed, raising glasses. Maya wiped her eyes, overwhelmed with gratitude. This was her family now. This improbable, impossible, perfect family. After the party, after the guests left and the apartment was quiet again, Maya and Lucian cleaned up together. Lily had crashed hard, zonked out in her crib with frosting still in her hair. They worked in comfortable silence, washing dishes and folding decorations, moving around each other like a choreographed dance. Thank you, Maya said as they finished. For everything. For being here. For loving us. For the speech that made me cry in front of everyone. Thank you for letting me, Lucian replied. For taking a chance on a broken vampire king who walked into your break room at 3 a.m. He pulled her close, and Maya went willingly, resting her head against his chest. His heartbeat was slow, barely 30 beats per minute, but steady. Reliable. There. I love you, she said. First time she'd said it out loud, though she'd felt it for months. I know it's complicated, I know we're from different worlds, but I love you. Lucian's arms tightened around her. I love you too. Both of you. More than I thought I could love anything again. He pulled back just enough to look at her. Maya Santos, would you consider making this official? Not marriage, not yet, that's too much pressure, but moving in together. Combining our lives properly, letting me be there for every morning and every night, not just the easy parts. Maya pretended to think about it. Let me consider. A vampire king who cooks, changes diapers, and looks at me like I hung the moon? Yeah, I think I can work with that. She kissed him, laughing. Yes, absolutely yes. Let's do this properly. They moved slowly, deliberately, found a house big enough for all of them. Maya's things, Lucian's things, Lily's ever-expanding collection of toys. It had a yard where Lily could play once she mastered walking. Had a home office where Maya could work on foundation projects. Had space for Marcus to visit, for friends to gather, for a life that felt full instead of just functional. The vampire court adjusted. Eventually. Some never accepted the relationship, whispered behind hands about propriety and tradition. But others, younger vampires, saw it as progress, as proof that different species could coexist, could love, could build families that transcended the old boundaries. The childcare program expanded nationwide. Maya became its director, traveling occasionally to consult with new facilities, sharing her story again and again. Each time she told the truth, that she'd been one bad month away from homelessness when Lucian walked into her break room, that his kindness had saved her, that the program they'd built together was saving thousands of other parents. That change was possible when people chose compassion over judgment. Lily grew. At 2, she was a whirlwind of energy and opinions. At 3, she started asking questions about why Uncle Marcus didn't eat dinner with them, why Lucian's skin was cold, why he never went outside during the day. They answered honestly, age-appropriately, told her about vampires, about different kinds of life, about how love worked regardless of species. Lily absorbed it with the easy acceptance of children, then went back to playing with her toys. "Daddy's a vampire," she told her preschool teacher matter-of-factly. "That's why he can't do pickup. The sun hurts him. But he comes to bedtime stories every night." The teacher called Maya, concerned. Maya explained, calmly, that yes, her partner was a vampire, that Lily was safe, loved, thriving, that maybe it was time the preschool updated its parent handbook to be more inclusive of non-traditional families. The teacher stammered an apology, and Maya hung up, feeling satisfied. This was the world they were building. One honest conversation at a time. 5 years after that first night in the break room, Lucian proposed, not in some grand public gesture, but during a quiet moment. Lily was asleep upstairs, and they sat in the living room together, Maya's feet in his lap, both of them reading. Lucian set down his book and said, "Marry me." Maya looked up, startled. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated. "I know the age difference is technically thousands of years. I know I'm going to watch you grow old while I stay like this. I know it's complicated and imperfect and there's no rule book for how to make this work long term." He took her hand. "But I want to spend whatever time we have as your husband. Want to be Lily's father, officially. Want to build a life with you that acknowledges this is real. This is permanent. This is the family we've chosen." Maya didn't need to think about it. "Yes," she said. Obviously, yes. They married in the same park, where they'd walked with Lily dozens of times. Small ceremony, close friends and family only. Lily was flower girl, took her job very seriously, scattered petals with intense concentration. Marcus served as best man. Catherine officiated, and when Lucian kissed his bride, the small gathered crowd cheered like they'd witnessed a miracle. Because maybe they had. 2 people from different worlds, different species, different lives, choosing each other, choosing to build something new, choosing to believe that love was enough. The years that followed weren't perfect. There were hard nights when Lily was sick and they both panicked. There were moments when Maya mourned the life she'd imagined as a young woman, before she knew vampires were real, before single motherhood, before everything got complicated. There were times when Lucian's vampire politics intruded, when threats emerged, when being with him meant living with danger. But there were more good moments than bad. Lily's graduation from elementary school, from middle school, from high school. Family vacations to places Lucian had visited centuries ago, seeing them fresh through their eyes. Holidays and birthdays and ordinary Tuesdays that felt extraordinary because they were together. When Lily turned 18, she asked the question they'd been dreading. Could I become a vampire? Like Dad? She sat between them on the couch, nearly adult, but still their baby. I've been thinking about it. About how you'll age, Mom, and Dad won't. About how I'll age, and he won't. About watching everyone I love die while he stays the same. Lucian's expression was pained. It's not a decision to make lightly. Immortality sounds appealing, but it means watching the world change. Watching everyone you love die eventually. Carrying centuries of grief. But you'd be there, Lily pointed out. You've carried it. Maybe it's easier if we carry it together. Maya took her daughter's hand. You're 18. Legally, You can make this choice, but I'm asking you to wait. Live a human life first. Go to college, travel, experience everything mortality offers. If you still want this in 10 years, 20 years, we'll talk again. But don't choose immortality because you're afraid of losing us. Choose it because you want centuries, not because you fear decades. Lily cried, but nodded. Okay, I'll wait. But I'm not ruling it out. Fair enough, Lucian said, pulling her into a hug. Whatever you choose, whenever you choose it, we'll support you. That's what family means. The sun was setting outside their home, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Maya leaned against Lucian's shoulder, Lily on his other side, and felt profoundly grateful for the accident that spilled wine and brought Lucian into that break room, for his choice to help instead of judge, for the family they'd built from nothing, from a single moment of kindness at 3 a.m. She thought about that exhausted nurse, terrified and alone, feeding her baby under fluorescent lights, thought about the vampire king who walked in and saw her not as a problem to solve, but as a person worth knowing. Thought about how far they'd all come. I love you, she said quietly. To Lucian, to Lily, to the life they'd created. We love you too, they answered in unison, and that was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.